I will always read any Jacqueline Wilson book because she's very much the reason I fell in love with reading and writing. I wouldn't be the writer I am today were it not for Jacqueline Wilson. But I have to say, her more contemporaneous narratives are my favourites, and this is exactly what we get with the Primrose Railway Children. Beautifully illustrated by Rachael Dean. I'm still missing Nick Sherratt's illustrations, but I cannot deny how absolutely gorgeous this is. Can we also just take a moment to appreciate how large this book is? I feel like this is one of her thickest books in terms of the page count. Does it broach 500 pages? Just about. Which in itself is not a bad thing, and for me as an adult reader, that's great. I can get my teeth into this. Obviously, it's a really quick read for an adult. At least I found it to be one that I could fly through. But I think maybe for some children, they might be put off by the size. And before I get in with the narrative, no spoilers, of course, I will say it did get a little bit repetitive. And there is maybe 100 pages worth of narrative that could have been removed. And we wouldn't have lost anything. So that is definitely something that I think is probably the only bad thing about this. I feel like it gets a little bit repetitive, and certainly for some children, the size of it can be quite daunting. So it's worth bearing in mind that it's not perfect. The pacing isn't perfect, but the narrative is quite interesting. It focuses on our protagonist, Phoebe, and her brother and sister, Bex and Perry. And one day, quite early on in the book, they're taken out of school, and their mother takes them away to this remote cottage near the Primrose Railway, which I'll talk about in a moment. And their father has gone away. He's gone to an important meeting, and after that, her mother says, "We can't see your father again for a while." And Phoebe believes that it's because he's making a documentary on an island, on a remote island by himself. And that's not completely far fetched, because her father used to be quite a famous children's TV presenter, presenting his own show that had little like characters and things. The book explains it much better than I am, but it's not completely far-fetched that this is what he could be doing. It's explained very well. But there is this hint that that's not quite what's going on. And throughout the book, we don't really know what's going on. And I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed it so much, because it really holds back a lot of information. And it doesn't give away things too quickly. And I actually didn't work out where her father actually was until it was revealed. And when it was revealed, I hadn't expected it. I'd say it's revealed maybe no more than 50 pages to the end, certainly no more than 100. So we have a good amount of time to kind of grip onto that suspense. And I think that part of the pacing was done very well. So the Primrose Railway is a railway station near the cottage where they're staying, and they go there every day. Now, the main reason they go there every day is because of Perry. Perry is Phoebe's slightly older brother. I think he's 12, if I'm not mistaken, 11 maybe, and he's got autism, and he thrives on routine, like a lot of people on the autism spectrum do. So they go there every day, but Phoebe doesn't mind it because she makes a friend there. Bex doesn't mind it because there's a boy there who's slightly older than her, but she rather likes him. And they all become very close to the family there and the people who work there, and they spend a lot of time on the railway. And I will say, the amount of facts in this about the railway and about trains is just absolutely incredible. It is beautifully done. The amount of research that's gone into this is just flawless. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about trains. I like trains. That's something that really appealed to me. I will say, if you don't like trains at all, it might not appeal. And there are some kind of dramatic moments that happen around the railway. I think the tunnel episode could have been removed. I feel like, given what happened that was even more dramatic slightly later, I feel like it wasn't necessary. And that's one of the things that I feel like could have just... It felt like the narrative was trying too hard to be intense, when actually I feel like it could encourage somebody to do the wrong thing. My fingernails are covered in hair dye. Please excuse that. It clings to my skin. But that's completely irrelevant to the narrative. Yeah, I feel like it was trying too hard and actually could encourage, because of how the tunnel chapters concluded and what Perry said about something, it's hard to explain without giving it away, but I feel like that could actually encourage some people to copy that scene, and that's obviously quite risky. So I didn't love that bit. But generally, I found it to be very pleasant. There's a moment when we find out what happened with her father, Phoebe's personality changes. And I think that that's really realistic. And that's exactly how I think a lot of children would respond in that situation because they're just so confused by everything. And I think the character development there was pretty spot on. I really liked it. As I said, I will always read anything Jacqueline Wilson writes, but anything that's set in the 21st century definitely appeals to me more. Really enjoyable story. Not perfect in terms of pacing, but I liked the mystery element. It definitely kept me reading.